If you're looking to purchase a 73 through 79 full-size Ford pickup truck for a restoration project and you're wondering what to look for when buying one of these trucks, then stay tuned for this episode of Dentside Depot, because I'm going to give you the ultimate buyer's guide on everything you need to know about buying one of these trucks before you start a restoration project or even buying one that's already been restored. So let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about where to look for rust on these trucks, and we'll start with the body. A very common area to find rust is going to be in the drip rails. Here we have a crew cab truck, and you can see the drip rails have completely gone out. It just depends on the truck, and you got to look. Here we have another one, same year, same truck, but the drip rails are good, but the roof is shot. So you got to take a look at the drip rails first, because that's going to be a big indicator. Very common to see floorboards that have been rusted out. While these are not a big deal to replace, it's definitely something you want to consider, because oftentimes the cab mount has also gone bad along with the floorboard, so make sure to check that on the truck as well. Another area where these trucks typically go bad is going to be in the cab corners and then the bottoms of the doors. You can tell the cab corner is bad because you will see little pits of rust coming up, or it'll even be blown out. Doors, you should look on the inside corner first, because typically the rust starts right here and then works its way underneath the door. Once a door gets to this point, it's pretty much no good, and that's going to mean a full door replacement at that point. When looking at the frame of the truck, of course you want to look over everything to make sure you don't have any bad rust, but the area that I always like to start is right here above the rear axle on this little lip. What happens is the water likes to come down and sit in this area, and typically that's where the frame is going to be the worst, in the back, because water and dirt typically sit there for a long time. Another area that you will see rust is on these brackets right here, and unfortunately they will have to be replaced with an OEM unit if the bracket is no good. So make sure that you're looking over your frame, making sure that there's not significant rust behind the shackles or anywhere else, because if it's all the way through the frame, then most likely you're not going to want to use that frame for your particular project. Talk about what year truck you want to get. These trucks were sold from 73 to 79, but they are not all created equal. Starting in 1977 and a half, Ford transitioned away from what is called the high boy, and they went to the low boy. I would highly recommend that you get a low boy truck when talking about the full-size heavy duties, and that's because they do not have the convoluted boost system for the steering that the high boys have. That is not very good. You will have a standard style power steering box on the 77 and a half to 79 with the regular pitman arm and drag link, and it is a much better setup. Speaking of which, while we're under here, there are two different axles that you could get for the four-wheel drive truck. Here we see the bigger of the two. It's the Dana 60 Kingpin. Although, while you can identify these by the style of the hub, really the best way to do it is look on the driver's side, and you will simply see the Kingpin right there. The Dana 44 came on both the F-150 four-wheel drives and the F-250s as well. You can visually see that they are much smaller. In this particular instance, we have the coil spring front, and then on the bigger trucks, it'll be leaf spring style, and you will see that the steering arm is slightly different compared to the Kingpin X. Talk about all the special four-wheel drive trucks that you should really target as one of your restoration projects. There's three different ones that you really want to be looking for, and they are all right here in a row. The first candidate that's going to be outstanding for a restoration is going to be an F-150 short bed 4x4. They are going to bring your premium values when talking about a 4x4 restoration. Any short bed 4x4 is going to be a desirable restoration project. The next one that you want to target in your search is going to be the 1979 F-350 X36 Super Cab 4x4. These trucks came factory with the Dana 60 Kingpin front end, obviously a super cab, and they were all long bed. Very desirable trucks, and very rare. They only produced about 1,700 of them in total. And last, the most desirable truck probably that you could get in 1979, talking four-wheel drive, is going to be the crew cab. Though these trucks are very difficult to find and typically very expensive when they pop up, this is going to be the kind of truck that you want to target to put your money into with the restoration. This will give you the most likely chance of being able to get your money back out of the restoration, breaking even, or even making a little bit of profit on it as well. Now let's talk quickly about trucks that you want to avoid. Although this is another 1979 F-350 Super Cab, a truck that you want to avoid as a restoration project is going to be what's called the Super Camper Special. The Super Camper Special has a longer wheelbase compared to a regular cab truck. The bed is going to be significantly different right here. Now, although those trucks actually had a very good setup powertrain wise, being a 460, a C6 transmission, and typically a Dana 70 rear end, they're going to represent the lowest value curve that you can have for a 79 Ford truck, 73 through 79 Ford truck. I would highly recommend that you stay away from a super camper special truck, as they would typically not be able to get your money back out of those trucks with their restoration. If you want a good work truck or a good driver, then they're definitely a good way to go, because they had essentially the best powertrain setup of all the trucks. Next up, let's talk about colors. I always like to target trucks that have really cool factory colors, or at least something that would be desirable. Right here we have what I like to call the mint green, which is the light jade green. I like dark jade, I like medium blue metallic, I like the coral orange. Black is a good color for me. I like the copper orange as well. There's a lot of cool colors, but I really like to target the trucks that have a color that would appeal to a broad audience of people. So that is definitely something that I would look at. If it's a single tone, then it's definitely got to be a cool color. If it's a two-tone, then at least one of the colors should be pretty neat, in my opinion, and that's really something that you should be looking for. Now let's talk about engines, and there were quite a few different engines that you could get in the 73 through 79 Ford trucks. The earlier trucks had a 360 and a 390. I'm not really going to go into those that much today. The four-wheel drives got the 360 and the two-wheel drives got the 390. Obviously the 390 would be the more desirable of the two. One engine that was available on all the years was the straight 6 300. You would see this in the base model trucks, but it went all the way up into the heavy duty trucks. This is a great engine to have. I love this engine. It runs great, and they are rock solid reliable. That's a great one to have for sure. You could get this in the two-wheel drive and the four-wheel drive trucks. It was available in everything, which is definitely really cool. Next to the two-wheel drive trucks, you had two other options as far as engines are concerned. You could get the 302 small block V8, or you could get the 460, which makes absolutely no sense at all. Why Ford only put the 460 in the two-wheel drive trucks and not in the four-wheel drive trucks is really mind-boggling still to this day. Speaking of the later model four-wheel drive trucks, your two options were the 351, a lot of people call it the M, and the 400, a lot of people call it the 400 modified. The problem with those engines was that they were very choked down from the factory as far as emissions and cam timing and everything else. They were definitely not the best. They also struggle from timing chain issues. They tend to stretch out and they have to be replaced with a better unit compared to factory, and they definitely need a camshaft change as well to be good. So just be aware of that. If you buy one of them with a Cleveland style engine in it, it's probably going to need some timing chain work and definitely an intake, headers, cam, and carb, and a few other things to have it make some decent power. Let's talk about special packages, and Ford did offer quite a few special packages throughout 73 through 79. The first cool special package that you could get would have been in 1976. They offered the Bicentennial package, which offered a really cool gold stripe going down the side with an eagle. It's one of my favorites of all time. Right here we have the Explorer package, and this was a unique package for each year of the Dentside. Each year would feature a different style stripe. It's one of my favorite packages that you could get. This particular one is a 79, still in its original paint and striping. The Explorer package would add other cool things like colored seat belts, a special seat cover, and a few other knickknacks that really made it pretty neat. That was definitely a cool one to look at. Starting in 1977, Ford would offer the freewheeling package, and the freewheeling package is one of the most iconic packages of all time. Still seen today. People redo them all the time because of the look. Now this truck's a freewheeling truck, but it's been repainted, unfortunately. The freewheeling truck would come in two different styles. You'd either have the rainbow graphic going down the side, red, orange, and yellow going down the side, or it could be chromatic in 1979 only, where you'd have a glow-in-the-dark orange stripe, and it actually looked like this going up the side. This particular freewheeling truck is chromatic, but obviously the paint is now missing. You would get special wheels with it, and overall those trucks would bring much better value. In addition, on the freewheeling package, you'd get special door panels that look like that, special vinyl seat with different colors and different trim that also looked really cool, and that really sets these trucks off, and it definitely brings premium value over what a regular truck would look like. Another special package in 1979 only was the Indianapolis 500 Speedway package, and essentially they were freewheeling trucks, almost identical, except the exterior striping was different. but essentially everything else was the same, and the trim code was also the same. Speaking of trim codes, if you're looking at a Dentside Ford truck and you want to know what it is, you can do one of two things. You can get a Marty report, or you can just do your own little investigation right here by looking at the trim tag. I can look at this trim tag right here and tell you with absolute certainty that it is either a freewheeling truck or an Indianapolis 500 truck, and that is because the trim code reads PA4. So if you look at these trim codes, do a little bit of research, you can essentially figure out what this truck is altogether. Now, these trucks had lots and lots of options, and you can't necessarily figure out all the options by just looking at the trim codes. But what you want to look for is things like a tilt wheel, security lock system, light groups, convenience groups. All of those things add value to these trucks, and definitely something you want to look for as well when you're purchasing one of these trucks. Lastly, let's talk about all 4 trim levels that you could get on one of these trucks, and there are 4 different ones. You have Custom, you have Ranger XLT, and then you have Ranger Lariat. And typically you can tell what the trim is by looking right here on the cowl. See just a tag saying F350 Ranger, then most likely it is just a Ranger. If you see 2 holes right here, then it's almost certainly an XLT, but you do need to confirm that. If it has a plastic decal or a plastic emblem right here, then it is a Lariat. But again, you need to do your trim tag investigation on the door and make sure of all those things. The custom trucks, the customer would order anything they wanted on the truck. The Ranger would add some basic trim. The Ranger XLT would add the top and bottom racetrack trim going all the way around the side, and then the Lariat would add a special appearance package for the interior plus the 2-tone deluxe paint. The Lariat would obviously be the most desirable, but a Lariat is not necessarily the highest option truck. I do have a Lariat truck that has absolutely no options on it besides power steering. It actually has less options than this F100 Custom does with the Explorer package. So it's very possible to have a Lariat with less options than another truck. It happens all the time because those were just appearance packages. There's a lot more things to consider when purchasing one of these trucks, but essentially everything that I've gone over with you today are the key areas that I like to start with, making sure that I'm satisfied with all of those things. If you enjoyed this episode of Dentside Depot, remember to like and subscribe and keep restoring those classic trucks.